Formula One currently generates $3.41 billion in annual revenue, supporting an enterprise valuation of more than $20 billion. It has become one of the most visible sporting properties in the world. But at the start of 2017, the organization was in a state of commercial stagnation. When Liberty Media acquired the sports parent company, the deal valued the business at $8 billion, less than half of its current worth. This lower valuation reflected the philosophy of former CEO Bernie Ecclestone. His business model relied on media scarcity. He ran Formula One like a highly restricted VIP club, keeping the sport's inner workings behind a digital paywall and strictly limiting how the product was shared. Look at this 2017 demographic data. The consequences of that scarcity were clear. The fan base was aging out. With driver personalities muzzled and social media clips banned, the average viewer was 44 years old, with almost no growth in younger age brackets. The on-track product was world-class, but by restricting access to the narrative, the sport was effectively suffocating its own future commercial value. Liberty Media's immediate priority was tearing down those digital barriers. They encouraged drivers and teams to flood social media with behind-the-scenes content, providing a level of access that was previously forbidden. They then pivoted the storytelling via the Netflix partnership, Drive to Survive. By focusing on character-driven rivalries rather than technical engineering minutiae, they made the sport understandable to a massive audience of non-gearheads. Total fan base grew to 826.5 million. Average viewer age plummeted to 32. Female viewership rose to 42. By giving away narrative access for free on digital platforms, Liberty Media transformed a niche European racing series into a cornerstone of global media rights. While the media strategy was public-facing, Liberty was simultaneously restructuring the sport's internal governance through a new Concord Agreement, essentially a financial constitution for the teams. Central to this was the cost cap. Limiting team spending to $215 million prevented racing operations from burning cash. Revenue above that cap converts to profit. They also introduced a $450 million anti-dilution fee, a paywall protecting the existing 10 teams' revenue share. These rules changed the fundamental economics of the sport. Formula One teams transitioned from money-losing marketing garages into stable, closed-loop franchises, with average valuations now exceeding $3 billion. Tearing down the public gates to build a massive audience provided the leverage needed to build financial walls around the teams, securing the long-term stability of the existing owners. The ultimate evolution of this model is a move toward vertical integration. Formula One is no longer just licensing its brand to others. It is beginning to act as its own landlord and promoter. In Las Vegas, Liberty Media refused to lease the race to a local promoter. Instead, they invested $500 million of their own capital to stage the event directly. This allows Formula One to retain every dollar of revenue, from ticket sales and local sponsorships to the high-margin VIP hospitality suites located directly above the pit garages. It is also a real estate play. The organization now owns permanent facilities in Las Vegas that generate an estimated $33 million per year, even when there isn't a race happening. This strategy is expanding the global calendar toward destination cities like Miami, where high-fee street circuits allow the organization to capture maximum value from the surrounding infrastructure. This represents a three-step cycle: acquire a massive audience through free digital access, monetize that scale through premium media rights, and vertically integrate physical events to capture all endpoint revenue. By finally letting the entire world into the sport for free, Liberty Media engineered a highly exclusive, high-margin sports monopoly. Imagine a corporate structure designed so precisely that no external competitor can enter and no internal capital can leak out. A perfect closed-loop monopoly. Liberty Media operates Formula One as a vertically integrated financial ecosystem. In early 2017, the property was commercially stagnant, carrying an enterprise valuation of $8 billion. Today, that valuation exceeds $20 billion. That $12 billion jump is the direct result of a three-phase corporate restructuring. Phase 1 required weaponizing the sporting rulebook to construct a closed-loop franchise model. Phase 2 deployed massive amounts of direct capital, shifting the organization from a passive licensor into an active owner-operator and real estate landlord. Phase 3 takes this architectural blueprint and exports it to entirely new properties through strategic mergers and acquisitions. To understand how this machine generates cash, we must ignore the on-track racing product entirely and audit the raw financial mechanics. Formula One serves as a live demonstration of how a fragmented, licensor-based property can be aggressively engineered into a corporate holding monopoly. The foundation of this corporate architecture rests on its suppliers, the 10 racing teams. Historically, these teams functioned as money-losing marketing vehicles, burning limitless cash on research and development to chase incremental speed. Liberty Media overhauled the Concord Agreement, establishing it as a rigid financial constitution for the teams. The most critical economic mechanism within that constitution is the cost cap, currently set at $215 million. This animated chart shows team expenses accelerating upward until hitting that hard limit. By preventing limitless spending, the governing body forced racing operations to stop burning cash. As broadcasting and sponsorship income pushes past that capped expense line, the financial reality of the teams inverts. Every dollar generated above the $215 million threshold now falls straight to the bottom line. Liberty Media engineered artificial profitability for its suppliers by placing a permanent, hard ceiling on capital expenditure. With profitability secured, Liberty needed to install a defense mechanism to protect these newly engineered margins from external competition. They introduced the second constitutional pillar, the $450 million anti-dilution fee. This diagram visualizes the closed-loop ecosystem of the 10 core teams, protected by a thick defensive barrier. If an external entity attempts to breach that market and enter the grid, the barrier triggers a $450 million payout to the existing owners. This mechanism operates as an exclusionary paywall, guarding the future revenue share of the established organizations. The direct structural result of these rules is that suppliers morphed from volatile garages into stable, elite franchises. Average team enterprise valuations now surpass $3 billion. The rulebook was successfully weaponized to build an impenetrable financial fortress around the original 10 suppliers. Securing the supply chain was step 1. Next, focus shifts up the organizational chart to the distribution layer, the Grand Prix events themselves. The traditional distribution model involved collecting safe, static licensing fees from third-party local promoters who staged the races. The inherent flaw in that traditional approach is that the local promoters capture all the high-value endpoint revenue. This cash flow Sankey diagram compares the two structures. The left side highlights revenue leaking to local organizers, while the right side shows all streams terminating directly at Formula One. Liberty applied this centralized model in Las Vegas. They bypassed the middleman, deploying $500 million in direct capital to stage the race themselves. Vertical integration means Formula One now captures 100% of the high-margin VIP hospitality suites, all revenue from ticketing, and lucrative local sponsorships. The sheer scale of this self-funded event required deep corporate integration directly into the city's infrastructure. The $500 million investment establishes Liberty Media as both a brand licensor and a physical real estate landlord. As part of the transaction, they acquired specific physical assets, including this massive permanent pit building situated right in the urban grid. Because they own the property, this permanent facility generates an estimated $33 million annually outside of the actual race week. This establishes a baseline, year-round corporate yield that operates entirely independent of the sporting event itself. By sacrificing zero-risk licensing for direct property ownership, Liberty monopolized the most lucrative endpoint of their own supply chain. Fixed supplier moats, combined with monopolized real estate distribution, create the complete Liberty framework. With the system stabilized, they moved to their final corporate maneuver, executing strategic mergers and acquisitions. In late 2024, Liberty Media announced the acquisition of the global motorcycle racing property MotoGP. The high density of teams and riders starting a Grand Prix presents a massive new, untapped supplier base. This acquisition is the deployment of a proven, replicable financial blueprint. Liberty intends to transpose the exact same closed-loop architecture, cost caps, and vertical integration directly onto this new asset. The Formula One turnaround serves as a proof of concept for a much larger expansion. Liberty Media views any fragmented global sport as raw material, waiting to be aggressively engineered into a vertically integrated monopoly.